Have you ever known someone for years and believed they were genuine, friendly, and basically a good person, only to realize that something in their stories does not quite add up? At first, it may be subtle. A detail shifts. A childhood story conflicts with an adulthood story. A relationship narrative makes them sound like the complete victim. But some tiny part of your brain whispers, "Interesting." And by interesting, I mean suspicious. Then your brain goes into full analytical mode. If you are anything like me, you do not immediately run to judgment. You start with yourself first, because apparently we needed a full internal ethics committee meeting. You ask, am I being too hard on this person? Am I jealous? Am I labeling them because something about them bothers me? Am I projecting? Am I the problem? And honestly, that self-check matters. It keeps us from turning every irritation into a diagnosis and every personality difference into a red flag parade. But after that self-check, sometimes the puzzle pieces still do not fit. That is when the mental investigation begins. You replay their stories, their tone, their timing, their body language, the way they explain conflict, the way they describe exes, family, friends, co-workers, and every person who has apparently wronged them since the dawn of time. Suddenly, you're standing in front of a 500-piece puzzle, but that last puzzle piece is missing. Naturally, your brain refuses to go do something normal like drink water or enjoy the sunlight until it finds that piece and fills that last empty space. This is the glitch in the matrix feeling. It is the moment when someone's words and behavior stop matching. They tell you one version of themselves, but their patterns reveal another. They say they are honest, but you keep catching small inconsistencies. They say they hate drama, but somehow drama continues to show up and is, of course, published for public sympathy. They say everyone else was the problem, but every story they tell has the same missing chapter, what they did. Psychologically, this connects to hypervigilance and pattern detection. Hypervigilance often develops when the nervous system has learned that safety is not guaranteed. People who grew up around emotional volatility, narcissistic behavior, manipulation, unpredictable anger, or chronic criticism may become extremely skilled at reading tone, facial expressions, posture, pauses, word choice, and emotional shifts. Research and trauma-informed writing often describe hypervigilance as the nervous system staying in threat detection mode, scanning for subtle signs of danger even when the situation appears ordinary. That skill can be exhausting, but it is not random. If you grew up in a world like I did, where you had to read the room before you said good morning, your brain may have learned that small details mattered. Was it safe to talk today? Was someone's silence harmless or dangerous? Was a certain tone the beginning of a lecture, an attack, or an emotional trial? When a child has to monitor the emotional weather of a parent or caregiver, that monitoring can follow them into adulthood. The body remembers the job long after the job should have ended. So now, as an adult, you may hear everything, every shift, every little change in language, every "I'm not lying" placed exactly where nobody asked. And yes, that phrase can make the mental alarm bells start ringing out of control. When someone volunteers innocence too quickly, it can make you wonder why the courtroom opened when no one's even filed charges. Body language, speech patterns, eye movement, nervous laughter, sudden defensiveness, too many details or even not enough details, and your brain starts collecting evidence like an exhausted detective who has not had a day off since 1998. There's a helpful side to this. Pattern recognition can protect you. It can show you when a person's public image and private behavior do not match. It can help you notice manipulation, Victim narratives, attention-seeking, superficiality, dishonesty, or the kind of validation hunger that starts making an entire social media feed feel like a sympathy marathon. And of course, people can post whatever they want. Like I always say, you do you, boo. But if every post, every story, and every conversation is built around extracting attention, pity, admiration, or outrage, it is fair for your brain to ask, why is this bothering me so much? The answer may not always be flattering, and that is where self-honesty comes in. Sometimes someone bothers us because they are actually displaying a trait we dislike. Sometimes they bother us because they remind us of someone who hurt us. Sometimes they bother us because they are doing something we secretly judge, envy, or do not understand. And sometimes they bother us because something really is off. The point is not to shame yourself for noticing. The point is to slow down enough to separate intuition from projection, pattern recognition from prejudice, and discernment from obsession. This is where the hypervigilant mind can become trapped. It does not just notice the glitch, it circles it, it replays it. It turns the person's behavior into a case file. You're not trying to be dramatic. You're trying to make the discomfort make sense. You may need to name the pattern before your body can put it down. Oh, this reminds me of my parent. Oh, this is validation seeking. Oh, this is manipulation. Oh, this is why the story felt wrong. Once the pattern has a name, the nervous system can sometimes stop searching so desperately, but the danger is rumination. Rumination is when the mind keeps chewing on the same thought without digesting it. Instead of reaching clarity, it keeps reopening the file. Why did they say that? Why did that post irritate me? Why are they still talking about the breakup? Why is every story missing accountability? Why does their face on my feed make my nervous system want to file a complaint with management? At a certain point, analysis stops being insight and becomes mental cardio. You are exhausted, and somehow you have not moved. The missing side of the story matters too. When someone tells you about a terrible breakup, a betrayal, a conflict, or a falling out, it is natural to feel compassion. But compassion does not require you to suspend all curiosity. If someone is always 100% the victim in every story, it is reasonable to wonder what happened on the other side. That does not mean you accuse them or dismiss their pain. It simply means you remember that a story told by one person is still only one side, it's one angle. Sometimes, the most psychologically grounded sentence you can say is, I hear this story, but I do not know the whole story. This can help you stop packing other people's narratives into your own emotional suitcase. You can listen without adopting. You can care without carrying. You can notice without investigating your own mind for days. You can recognize that someone may be hurt and still be incomplete in their accountability. Both things can be true. Some people are complicated, which is deeply inconvenient for those of us who would prefer clean categories and color-coded folders. Social media makes this harder because the glitch can keep showing up. You may not want to block or unfollow someone. You may not want to be rude. Maybe they are not doing anything offensive enough to justify a dramatic digital divorce. Maybe they are simply annoying your nervous system at a frequency only bats and trauma survivors can hear. In that case, muting a story, limiting interaction, or reducing exposure can be a practical boundary. Out of sight, out of mind is not always avoidance. Sometimes it is simply nervous system housekeeping. Boundaries do not have to be dramatic to be real. You do not have to announce, I am muting you because your online behavior has become an immersive theater experience in unresolved validation needs. You can simply mute the story. You can stop checking. You can choose fewer conversations. You can stop volunteering for emotional labor that nobody assigned you. The boundary can be quiet, clean, and effective. This is especially important if repeated conversations create more inner dialogue than connection. Sometimes more access equals more analysis, and more analysis equals more exhaustion. If every interaction leaves you trying to solve the mystery of why someone feels off, then less access may be the kindest thing you can offer yourself. You're not required to keep studying someone just because your brain found them confusing. A helpful practice is to ask 3 questions when you notice the glitch. First, is there something real here, or is this connected to an old wound? Second, do I need more information, or do I already have enough to set a boundary? Third, will continuing to analyze this help me, or is it just keeping the person rent-free in my head with utilities included? That last question is important because some people are not worth the square footage they take up internally. If the behavior reminds you of a narcissistic parent, a manipulative partner, or someone from your past who made you feel unsafe, that connection matters. Once your brain draws that bold, straight line, you may not be able to unsee it. And maybe you do not need to unsee it. Maybe the purpose of that line is not to condemn the person forever, but to protect you from repeating an old role. The line becomes information. It says, "This reminds me of something that hurt me, so I need distance, clarity, and a firmer boundary." That does not mean every person who irritates you is toxic. It does not mean every inconsistency is proof of manipulation. People misremember details. People exaggerate. People protect themselves. People tell stories in ways that make them feel less ashamed. But when there is a repeated pattern of dishonesty, attention-seeking, victim performance, boundary pushing, or emotional distortion, you are allowed to trust that your discomfort is telling you something worth examining. The trick is deciding what to do after you notice. You can name the pattern without becoming consumed by it. You can choose, "You do you, boo," and keep walking. You can mute the story, step back, ask fewer questions, or let the friendship become lighter. You can also decide that a closer friendship is not safe, useful, or aligned with who you are anymore. Not every connection needs a dramatic ending. Some people can simply become background characters with limited speaking roles. For analytical people, this can feel difficult because we want closure. We want the clean label, the final answer, the missing puzzle piece, the signed confession, the annotated timeline, and maybe a small PowerPoint presentation with supporting evidence. But life does not always hand us that. Sometimes the only closure available is, something feels off. I have checked myself. I have noticed the pattern, and I'm choosing distance because my peace matters more than solving the case. That is not rude. That is self-regulation. It is choosing not to let every glitch become a full system crash. It is understanding that your brain may be excellent at seeing inconsistencies, but it does not have to make every inconsistency its personal investigative assignment. You can notice the glitch and still decide not to live inside it. If you are hypervigilant like me, it helps to build a pathway around the glitch. That pathway might sound like this. I notice something. I am allowed to notice it. I am allowed to self-check. I am allowed to decide whether this deserves more attention. I'm allowed to create distance if my nervous system keeps responding to this person as unsafe or draining. I do not have to keep exposing myself to what keeps pulling me into analysis. There's also power in refusing to confuse awareness with cruelty. You can recognize a pattern without attacking the person. You can judge behavior without dehumanizing them. We all make judgments. We all create narratives based on what we see. The problem is not having an internal reaction. The problem is acting on that reaction in a way that is cruel, unfair, or uninformed. Discernment says, I see something. Maturity says, now I will decide what is mine to do with it. That distinction matters because hypervigilance can come with side effects. It can make you tired. It can make you suspicious. It can make you overanalyze. It can make small glitches feel enormous. But it can also make you perceptive, precise, observant, and deeply aware of emotional truth. The goal is not to shut that gift off. The goal is to learn when to listen to it, when to question it, and when to stop feeding it more evidence than it needs. So if the glitch shows up, pause. Self-check first. Ask whether the discomfort belongs to the present or the past. Notice whether the person's behavior matches their words. Decide whether more information is useful or whether you already know enough. Then choose the response that protects your peace. Mute, limit, step back, ask a question, set a boundary, or simply let the person be who they are without handing them more of your attention. And please remember this. Understanding who you are and understanding that you have hypervigilance is not a fault in any way, shape, or form. The fact that you hear everything, notice everything, and see patterns clearly may have been born out of trauma, but you've developed it into something useful. A lot of people do not see through the garbage, the mud, and the gunk people put out, but you can. That is an incredible gift. That gift comes with side effects. People may not be able to get much nonsense past you. You may see straight through behavior that others overlook, but the control you have over whether you let it bother you is where your true power lies. You are allowed to notice the glitch without becoming trapped by it. You are allowed to protect your peace without proving the entire case. You are allowed to trust yourself, set the boundary, and keep moving forward with your mind, your clarity, and your energy still belonging to you.